Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. In the quiet hours of night, when the world folds into shadows, there is a mirror hidden in the mind. It is not made of glass nor polished silver, but of memories and flickers of thought. This mirror does not simply reflect, it bends, distorts, and reshapes. To gaze into it is to slip into a dream, and sometimes, if the veil is thin enough, we realize that the mirror is aware of us as much as we're aware of it. This is the strange beginning of lucid dreaming, a moment when the dream recognizes the dreamer. When sleep arrives, it comes in waves as if the body is sailing across dark waters. At first, we drift into light sleep, where thoughts mingle loosely with fragments of memory. Then we sink deeper, where muscles loosen, heartbeats soften, and the body feels heavy, as though tethered by invisible threads. But then, like a sudden change in the tide, the brain awakens into a peculiar storm of activity. This stage is called REM sleep, rapid eye movement, when the eyes flicker beneath closed lids as though they are watching a secret film. It is here that most dreams unfold. The brain hums almost as if it were awake, yet the body remains still, cocooned in stillness. And in this paradox, dreams are born. Imagine a vast stage without walls, where memory, imagination, and emotion all gather to rehearse a play. Scenes shift without warning. A forest becomes a city, a face becomes a stranger, a house melts into an ocean. The dreamer drifts along these changes, swept gently by the story. But sometimes a whisper comes. This is not real. A flicker of doubt glimmers like the first star of evening. In that fragile instant, the dreamer may step closer to the mirror of sleep and realize, I am dreaming. The recognition is quiet but profound, like finding a hidden door in one's own home. The science of this moment is both simple and astonishing. In waking life, the prefrontal cortex, an area of the brain behind the forehead, helps us reason, plan, and reflect. During most dreams, this region rests, allowing the imagination to flow freely, unconstrained by rational checks. But in lucid dreams, the prefrontal cortex stirs, just enough to sprinkle awareness into the dream. Scientists have found that this partial awakening allows the dreamer to notice impossibilities. A clock with melting numbers, a voice without a speaker, a body that floats instead of falls. The dreamer becomes a quiet observer, and sometimes a gentle participant. To see the mirror is one thing, to hold it is another. For centuries, philosophers and mystics wondered whether dreams could be shaped like clay. Ancient Buddhist texts describe practices of dream yoga, where monks trained to remain conscious in sleep, bending their dreams into gardens of clarity. In other cultures, dreams were seen as messages from the divine, not to be altered but received. Yet the human curiosity to touch the intangible, to steer the ship of sleep, never faded. And in modern science, the question returned, can a person truly control a dream, as if guiding a character in a video game? Experiments began in the 20th century, in quiet laboratories where dreamers stepped beneath wires and sensors. Researchers asked volunteers to signal from inside a dream. If they became lucid, they should move their eyes in a pattern, left, right, a code that could be seen in their REM activity, and astonishingly some did. The flickering eyes of dreamers spelled out proof they knew they were dreaming. The mirror of sleep had reflected back. From this simple signal, the world of lucid dreaming entered science not as myth, but as measurable fact. Yet lucidity does not always arrive like a bright flame. For many, it is more like a candle in fog flickering in and out. A dreamer may notice they are dreaming, then slip back into forgetting, as if the mirror turned away. To hold lucidity requires balance. Too much awareness, and the dream collapses. Too little, and the dream continues blind. The dreamer must tread softly, like walking across thin ice. There is a curious beauty in this fragility. Lucid dreams are not merely playthings for the mind, but windows into the nature of consciousness itself. For what is awareness, if not the ability to notice one's own experience? In dreams, the mind creates entire worlds, paints skies and rivers, fills them with voices and faces, then forgets it is the artist. But in lucidity, the painter turns to the canvas and whispers, "This is mine." To experience this is to brush against the mystery of selfhood, to wonder whether waking life too might be in some sense a dream we have yet to question. Science, of course, approaches this mystery with care. Researchers study lucid dreams for their potential benefits. Some use them as a way to overcome nightmares, teaching dreamers to face fears with courage, knowing the world cannot harm them. Others explore how practicing skills in dreams, such as playing music or rehearsing movements, may improve waking performance. Early studies suggest that the brain rehearses almost as if the body were moving, strengthening pathways of memory and action. It is as though the stage of the dream doubles as a rehearsal hall for life, and yet there is poetry in how fragile these rehearsals are. A lucid dream may dissolve at the brush of excitement, like a bubble touched too quickly. The dreamer, thrilled by awareness, often wakes too soon. To stay inside, one must learn gentleness, like holding a butterfly in the palm. Dreamers are taught to breathe calmly, to touch their surroundings in the dream, to anchor themselves in its fabric. Some spin in circles within the dream, believing it helps stabilize the scenery. Others focus on their hands, watching the shifting lines of their palms, reminding themselves, "I am here, still dreaming." Such rituals, tender and strange, are the art of remaining within the mirror. Even with practice, lucidity is not guaranteed. Some nights sleep is too deep, other nights too restless. Yet the possibility remains, shimmering like a hidden pond in a forest. For each person who has ever dreamed, and that is every person who has ever lived, there lies the chance of touching that mirror, of recognizing the dream while still inside it. Whether or not we control the dream like a game, the recognition itself is a gentle wonder. The mind seeing itself, like the moon reflected in water. As we linger in this thought, it feels almost as if the dream is not separate from waking life at all. Perhaps both are mirrors reflecting each other. In waking, we imagine and plan, sculpting possibilities with thought. In dreams, we drift and wander, sculpting worlds with imagination. And in lucid dreams, those worlds meet. Awareness folds into imagination, and imagination bows to awareness. The dreamer stands between them, quiet and curious, holding both like threads of light. Now imagine yourself drifting, eyes closed, body at rest. You're walking through a corridor of memory, where doors lead to places both familiar and strange. One door opens and you step into a dream. The air feels thick but gentle, the ground soft beneath your feet. A bird sings, though you cannot see it. You turn and suddenly you realize none of this is real, and yet it is real enough to breathe, to feel, to wonder. The mirror of sleep is in your hands. It does not ask to be mastered. It only asks to be noticed. Deeper into the mirror of sleep, the currents of science and imagination flow together like two rivers meeting. We have touched the threshold where a dreamer notices they are dreaming, but now let us drift further, exploring what happens within that fragile awareness. To remain inside a lucid dream is to balance between two tides: the tide of imagination, swelling and boundless, and the tide of consciousness, steady and watchful. Too much of either, and the dream dissolves; too little, and the dreamer forgets. The delicate equilibrium is like standing on a bridge woven of mist, both real and unreal at once. When scientists look into this bridge, they see not fog but flickers of electricity. Neurons fire in rhythms, bursts of light in the silent darkness of the skull. In waking life, these sparks guide us through every thought and action. In dreams, they compose symphonies of vision, sound, and sensation without any outside world to feed them. Lucid dreams are where the orchestra pauses, glances at its conductor, and plays with awareness of the music. It is astonishing to think that billions of cells, each one smaller than a grain of sand, conspire to build entire universes every night, then allow us sometimes to step inside and say, "I know this is a universe I made." Dreamers who train to reach lucidity often speak of a threshold moment, a subtle shift in perception. Some find it through reality checks in waking life, counting fingers, glancing at clocks, pushing hands through walls to see if they pass through. The idea is simple: practice questioning reality until the habit follows you into sleep. In the dream, when the numbers on a clock swim like fish, or the hand sinks through wood as if it were water, the dreamer remembers the training. Awareness blooms. They awaken within the dream. It is not unlike the way a bird flying through fog suddenly sees the coastline and knows where it is. But awareness alone is not the whole story. What happens when the dreamer begins to shape the dream? Here lies the question at the heart of lucid dreaming. Can one truly control the dream as if it were a game, bending landscapes, summoning people, or taking flight at will? Reports vary. Some speak of soaring above mountains, summoning oceans, or meeting loved ones lost to time. Others find the dream resists, as if the subconscious mind guards its stage. Commands turn to whispers, and the dream obeys in unexpected ways. A wish for sunlight may bring a candle. A desire for flight may result in floating just above the ground. The dream, though pliant, has its own language. Neuroscientists believe this resistance reflects the hidden depths of the unconscious. Dreams are not blank canvases, but living collages of memory, desire, and emotion. When we attempt to paint them directly, the brush meets layers of old paint. The result is not always what we expect. Yet this dance between will and subconscious is part of the wonder. To control a dream entirely would perhaps rob it of mystery. Instead, lucid dreaming invites a partnership where the conscious mind suggests and the dreaming mind transforms. It is like planting seeds in a shifting garden and watching what blossoms. There is evidence that these blossoms are not merely illusions but reflections of the dreamer's deepest states. Studies of nightmares, for instance, show that lucid dreaming can bring healing. A dreamer trapped in terror may, upon realizing they are dreaming, turn to face the monster instead of fleeing. Some embrace it, others speak kindly to it, and often the nightmare dissolves. This transformation is profound, echoing through waking life as well. A person who learns to face shadows in dreams may find new courage in the daylight, as though the mirror of sleep has gifted them a fragment of strength. Lucid dreams also stir questions about learning. If the mind rehearses movements and skills in dreams, could lucidity become a training ground? Experiments with piano players and athletes suggest that it can. Practicing in lucid dreams strengthens neural patterns, similar to practicing in waking life. The brain does not fully distinguish between action imagined vividly and action performed, so the dream stage becomes both a theatre of fantasy and a quiet workshop of practice. A musician may rehearse notes in the silence of sleep and wake to find their fingers remember. A gymnast may spin in dream air and wake with improved balance. The dream is a rehearsal that requires no instruments, no equipment, only the vast and silent canvas of the mind. But perhaps the most mysterious gift of lucid dreams is their reflection of self. In waking life, we live among countless stimuli, voices, noises, objects, duties. In dreams, all of this springs from within. Every tree, every stranger, every street corner is painted by the dreamer's own mind. To realize this is both humbling and profound. It suggests that we carry entire worlds inside us, landscapes that bloom each night, populated by fragments of memory and imagination. When lucidity dawns, the dreamer glimpses themselves not just as an observer, but as the creator. It is a soft reminder. The universe we navigate within sleep is also part of who we are. Some traditions call lucid dreaming a spiritual doorway. Tibetan dream yoga teaches that recognizing dreams prepares the mind to recognize reality itself as transient and shifting. To walk lucidly in dreams is, in this view, to practice walking lucidly in life. The Buddhist masters encourage dreamers not merely to play within dreams, but to use them as training in awareness, compassion, and clarity. The mirror of sleep for them was not a toy but a teacher, and modern science, though cautious, acknowledges the wisdom in such practices. The ability to notice the dream, they suggest, is linked to mindfulness, the waking practice of noticing the present moment without judgment. In both states, waking and dreaming, awareness is the key, and so the dream becomes a quiet laboratory of consciousness. Every night, billions of people step into worlds unmeasured by clocks, landscapes unbound by physics. Most walk through unaware, a few awaken inside, and among those few, some discover that lucidity is not only about control, but about presence, the simple act of knowing. To control the dream is to play, to notice the dream is to awaken. Both are precious, both reflect the strange brilliance of the human mind. Now imagine drifting deeper still. The mirror of sleep shines not only with your image, but with reflections of countless lives before you, all who dreamed beneath ancient skies. A child in a distant century dreamed of flying and became aware. A monk in the mountains dreamed of light and held the dream steady. A scientist in a laboratory watched their eyes signal from within a dream, proof across centuries of wonder. And tonight, you too may carry the same possibility to step into the dream and whisper softly, "I see you." The mirror waits, patient and silent. It does not hurry, nor does it resist. It reflects what the mind brings, whether wild or gentle. To stand before it in lucidity is to hold a key to your own imagination. The door it opens is not to another world, but to yourself. And as we rest within this thought, the night stretches on, calm and vast, carrying us toward the fragile, luminous threshold of the next dream. The mirror of sleep glows softly as we enter its final arc, carrying us through the closing reflections of lucid dreaming. We have wandered into its doorway, watched its hidden play, and lingered in its delicate balance between awareness and imagination. Now we drift toward the horizon of the story, where lucidity is no longer a question of control but of meaning. For in the quiet end of the night, what remains with us is not simply that we flew or walked through dream palaces, but that the dream itself allowed us to meet ourselves in ways both strange and gentle. As dawn approaches, science peers even closer at this fragile phenomenon. Researchers wire sleepers to machines, measuring brainwaves, heartbeats, eye movements, as though searching for a signature of lucidity written in light. They find hints, bursts of gamma activity, unusually fast rhythms sparking in the prefrontal cortex, echoes of waking thought stirring within REM sleep. To scientists, this suggests that lucid dreaming is a hybrid state, not fully asleep, not fully awake, but something in between. It is as if the dreamer stands at a shoreline, with one foot in the sea of imagination and the other on the land of awareness. Such a liminal state carries mysteries not only for psychology, but for consciousness itself. What does it mean to be aware that you are dreaming? It is a question that bends back into philosophy. René Descartes once asked whether life itself could be a dream. His doubt trembled on the same edge that lucid dreamers feel when they realize the world around them, so solid moments before, is only mind's invention. To know this in a dream is to awaken without waking. It invites the deeper question: if we can dream while asleep and awaken inside it, how do we know whether our waking life too is not another layer of dreaming? Lucid dreaming thus becomes a gentle echo of one of humanity's oldest riddles, the nature of reality itself. And yet, for most dreamers, lucidity is less about philosophy and more about a subtle joy. The dream world, once unshaped, suddenly bends enough to allow choice, to fly above rivers shimmering with light, to summon a childhood home long lost, to walk through forests that never existed. These are the simple marvels of lucid dreaming. Some compare it to painting with light, others to dancing within a story. Even if the dream resists full control, the ability to notice and nudge its scenery is enough to bring wonder. Like a child blowing gently into a dandelion, the dreamer knows they cannot command where every seed falls, but they delight in watching the air carry them. Lucid dreams also offer comfort. For those who grieve, the dream can provide a reunion, a face remembered, a voice heard once more, even if only woven of memory, can soothe aching hearts. Therapists who study lucid dreaming note that these meetings, while bittersweet, sometimes ease the pain of loss. The dreamer knows it is not real, yet the present still carries tenderness. It is the kind of encounter only the mirror of sleep can provide, an embrace made of memory, a smile born from the mind's own yearning. In such moments, lucidity does not feel like a game, but like a gift. The cultural echoes of lucid dreaming ripple quietly across time. Ancient Greeks spoke of dreams as messages from gods, while indigenous peoples often treated them as sacred visions. In each culture, dreams were bridges, between humans and spirits, between life and mystery. To awaken within them was to step further along that bridge. Modern science strips away the myth, measuring neurons and chemicals, yet even here something ineffable remains. To call a lucid dream merely a trick of the brain is like calling music merely vibrations in air. True, but incomplete. The experience itself is larger, wider, filled with feelings that cannot be dissected on a page of data. Now let us imagine the ending of a lucid dream. Often it slips away without warning. A sudden awareness of the body, a shift in breath, and the dream dissolves like mist. But sometimes the dreamer chooses the end, walking calmly through its door. They may decide to awaken or to drift into non-lucid sleep again. In either case, the transition is gentle, a fading of colours, a soft return to darkness. And when the eyes open at last, the dream lingers like perfume, delicate and fading. The day begins, yet the echo remains. I dreamed, and I knew I dreamed. The implications ripple outward. If we can notice ourselves in a dream, perhaps we can notice ourselves more fully in waking life. Mindfulness practices suggest exactly this. Awareness is the heart of presence. Lucid dreaming, in its quiet way, is a practice of awareness under the most unusual conditions. It is the mind reminding itself of itself. The gift is not in control, but in clarity. The recognition that all experience, whether in sleep or waking, arises within the same mysterious consciousness. To see this clearly even once is like hearing a bell ring softly in the night. So the mirror of sleep is not simply a curiosity, it is a companion, a silent teacher. It invites us to explore, to play, to heal, to reflect. For some it is an escape, for others a practice, and for a few a revelation. Whatever its shape, it remains a natural part of being human, available to anyone who closes their eyes and drifts into the tide of REM. Whether we soar like birds, face shadows bravely, or simply notice the strangeness of a melting clock, the experience carries us deeper into ourselves. As we close this story, imagine once more the dreamer lying in bed, eyes flickering behind closed lids. The body is still, but the mind is alive, painting scenes no one else can see. In the dream, the dreamer suddenly realizes, this is a dream. They smile perhaps. They raise their hands and feel the air shift. They know they're both actor and author, both witness and creator. For a moment, the universe bends inward, and consciousness meets itself in wonder. Then the dream changes, as it always does, flowing onward like a river, carrying the dreamer deeper into night. And so the mirror of sleep closes softly. It has shown us the possibility of lucidity, the fragile gift of awareness within dreams. Whether or not we master it, whether or not we control the stage, what matters most is the quiet realization. The mind is larger, more mysterious, and more beautiful than we ever imagined. Even in sleep, it whispers to us, reminding us of its endless capacity to wonder. We drift now into silence, carrying the reflection with us, like a small flame glowing gently in the dark. Within the theatre of the mind, there is a stage made not of wood or stone, but of billions of tiny sparks. Each neuron is a performer, each synapse a connection, each rhythm of firing a note in an invisible song. By day, these actors orchestrate our every movement and thought. By night, they slip into costumes of imagination, weaving the fabric of dreams. And when lucidity flickers through the dream, it is as if the curtain rises, and the performers look back at their audience, the mind watching itself, alive within its own play. Dreaming is not chaos, though it feels like it. The neurons follow patterns, waves rising and falling like tides. In the early stages of sleep, slow rhythms wash over the cortex, deep and heavy, pulling us downward into rest. Later, during REM sleep, the patterns become lively and erratic, resembling waking activity. The brain, though resting, is not idle. It is a stage alive with improvisation, memories wandering into new forms, emotions painting scenery, sensory fragments spinning into entire landscapes. On this stage, neurons perform dramas without scripts, yet somehow each dream carries a story. What makes lucid dreaming special is the spark of self-awareness, the subtle shift when the stage is not only alive with characters but more aware of its own performance. Neuroscientists study this by watching brain activity with tools like EEG and fMRI, capturing maps of blood flow and electrical patterns. They find that in lucid dreams, certain regions stir awake, particularly the prefrontal cortex, the seat of planning and reflection. It is as though the director steps quietly onto the stage and whispers to the actors, "You are being watched." The play continues, but now the players know it is a play. Consider the neurons themselves, tiny cells pulsing with ions and electricity. Each one is both fragile and immense, connected to thousands of others through delicate threads. A single thought is not the work of one neuron, but of networks shimmering together like constellations in a night sky. In dreams, these constellations form and dissolve quickly, creating fluid stories. To become lucid is to recognize these constellations for what they are, creations of the mind. A dream mountain is not stone, but a chorus of neurons firing in harmony. A dream river is not water, but patterns flowing through the brain's sensory networks. Awareness reveals the illusion, yet the illusion remains breathtakingly vivid. The metaphor of a stage is not only poetic but rooted in science. During REM sleep, the brainstem sends signals upward, activating the cortex. This ignition sets the stage alive, lighting it with colour and motion. Meanwhile, the body below remains paralysed, held in stillness to prevent the dreamer from acting out their visions. The stage glows brightly in the mind, while the physical body lies still, like an audience hushed in the dark. This contrast, wild neural activity above, deep muscle silence below, creates the unique paradox of dreaming. And within that paradox, lucidity sometimes awakens. What is it like to stand on this electric stage as both dreamer and dream? For some, it feels like becoming both actor and playwright. They can step into roles, yet also alter the script. Others feel like musicians, playing with the rhythms of thought and image. Still others describe it as floating, neither actor nor audience, but pure awareness watching the neurons perform. These descriptions echo across cultures, each one a way of grasping the ineffable, the brain aware of itself in motion. Lucid dreaming also illuminates how tightly woven emotion is with the neural stage. Dreams are often coloured more by feeling than by fact. A hallway may stretch endlessly not because neurons miscalculated geometry, but because the dreamer's anxiety painted it so. A loved one may appear not because memory summoned their exact features, but because longing shaped their presence. Neuroscience shows that the amygdala, a region tied to emotion, remains active during REM sleep, feeding the stage with currents of feeling. Lucidity does not erase this. It simply allows the dreamer to recognize the mood as part of the play. To know that fear is a performance of neurons is to soften it. To know that joy is also a performance is to savor it fully, even while it lasts only in the dream. But perhaps the most curious feature of the electric stage is its rehearsal power. Neurons that fire together in waking life often echo their rhythms in dreams. If one practices a skill, the same circuits may light again during sleep, rehearsing soundly. Studies on lucid dreamers suggest that practicing deliberately in dreams strengthens these neural connections further. This stage becomes both a theatre of fantasy and a quiet classroom. A violinist may practice fingering in a lucid dream and awaken with improved dexterity. A swimmer may move through dream water and wake with sharper timing. The neurons do not distinguish sharply between dream rehearsal and waking rehearsal. They are performers responding to patterns, regardless of whether the stage is real or imagined. The dream stage also raises questions about memory. Dreams weave together fragments of the past, stitching them into surreal tapestries. Neuroscientists believe the hippocampus, the brain's memory hub, plays a key role in this weaving. During REM sleep, it replays experiences, sending echoes through the cortex. Lucidity allows the dreamer to watch this replay from within, like a person seated in the projection booth of their own theatre. To realize one is inside a memory, reshaped and performed anew, is to glimpse the architecture of remembering itself. The neurons are not only recalling, they are reshuffling, rehearsing, reimagining, and so the electric stage is more than metaphor. It is the living, humming fabric of thought and dream. To watch it from within, lucid and calm, is to see that we are both the stage and the actors, both the audience and the director. Every dream, lucid or not, is a performance of billions of neurons, rising and falling in delicate patterns. Awareness does not disrupt the show, it simply changes how we watch it. The curtain never truly falls, for even as we awaken, the stage continues, neurons humming their endless song beneath every breath, every thought, every heartbeat. Dreams are only the moments when the curtain lifts and shows us the theatre, and as the night drifts onward, the stage glows on, awaiting the next performance. Somewhere in the silence, neurons are already gathering, rehearsing for another dream. Perhaps next time lucidity will return, and the dreamer will step quietly onto the stage, bowing to the players and whispering, "I know this play, and still I wish to see it unfold." The curtain of night rises again, and the stage of neurons glimmers with a deeper rhythm. We have stepped into the theatre where dreams are performed, but now let us wander further into its corridors, exploring not just the actors, but the symphony that binds them. For neurons do not act alone, they are part of an immense orchestra, one that has been rehearsing for millions of years, evolving from simple pulses in ancient creatures to the boundless imagination of human thought. To watch them in lucidity is to glimpse not only the present performance, but the history of a theatre that stretches back through all of life. The origins of dreams are as old as sleep itself. Even tiny animals, with brains no larger than a pinhead, show signs of dreamlike activity. A fruit fly resting in stillness displays neural rhythms that echo human REM sleep. A cat twitches as though chasing invisible prey. A rat's brain replays patterns of running mazes, while it lies in slumber, as if rehearsing the path again in silence. These echoes remind us that the electric stage is not ours alone. It is a universal feature of living minds. Dreams are the whispers of neurons, rehearsing, repairing, reimagining across countless species. And when humans become lucid within those dreams, it is not a departure from nature but a continuation, the flowering of awareness in a pattern that began long before us. The orchestra of neurons creates not only images but sensations. In lucid dreams, the vividness of touch, taste and sound can be startling. A dreamer may bite into fruit and taste its sweetness, hear music that has never existed, or feel the texture of stone beneath their fingers. How can such real sensations arise in sleep? Neuroscience explains the same brain regions that process sensory information in waking life become active during dreams. The auditory cortex plays music without ears. The somatosensory cortex creates the illusion of touch without contact. The visual cortex paints landscapes without light. In lucidity, we realize that these sensations are illusions, yet they remain convincing, as though neurons are artists capable of tricking their own audience. This power of illusion is not deception, but creativity. The brain is capable of conjuring entire worlds within itself, rehearsing possibilities, exploring emotions, and building scenarios that might never occur in waking life. Some scientists suggest that this function, simulating experiences, is the reason dreams evolved. Dreams allow us to rehearse dangers safely, to explore social interactions, to test choices without consequence. When lucidity arises, we step into this evolutionary tool with awareness, shaping the rehearsal consciously. It is like discovering that the orchestra not only plays for us, but will respond to our gestures as conductor. The music shifts, not perfectly, but enough to let us feel the power of participation. Yet lucidity also reveals the limits of control. Dreamers who attempt too much, commanding landscapes, summoning impossible objects, often find the dream resists. This resistance teaches a quiet lesson. The subconscious is not clay to be moulded at will, but a living partner with its own voice. Neurons carry not just imagination, but history, emotion, and instinct. To push against them is to feel the weight of that history, but to move with them is to experience the strange harmony of conscious will and unconscious flow. Many dreamers find that the most fulfilling lucid dreams come not from total control, but from gentle guidance, like steering a boat with the current rather than against it. The stage is alive, and lucidity is a way of joining its performance rather than rewriting it entirely. Consider the role of memory in this stage. Dreams often weave fragments from the previous day, faces glimpsed, words overheard, emotions carried quietly in the heart. Lucid dreams allow us to witness this weaving more clearly. A hallway may be filled with familiar pictures, a voice from childhood may echo in the air, a song long forgotten may play again. Scientists call this the day residue, but to the dreamer it feels like a reunion, the past stitched gently into the present. Awareness within the dream transforms these fragments into moments of recognition. We realize that neurons are not only creating, but remembering, replaying patterns of our own lives in ways both strange and tender. The electric stage is not only a theatre of memory, but also of healing. Studies suggest that lucid dreams can ease recurring nightmares, giving the dreamer the power to face fear. A child tormented by falling dreams may, upon becoming lucid, learn to fly instead. An adult pursued by shadows may turn to face them, discovering they dissolve into harmless mist. The neural stage responds to awareness, transforming terror into courage. The experience can ripple outward, helping the dreamer face fears in waking life as well. The stage is not confined to sleep, it extends into daylight, offering quiet lessons in resilience. There is also wonder in how the stage creates time. Dreams often warp chronology, stretching minutes into hours, collapsing days into seconds. A dreamer may live through entire journeys in the span of a short REM period. Neuroscience suggests that the brain's perception of time is fluid, built from the rhythms of neurons rather than the ticking of clocks. In lucidity, this fluidity becomes even more noticeable. Dreamers report practicing for what feels like long hours, only to awaken after minutes. The stage, it seems, plays with time as easily as it plays with scenery. To notice this is to glimpse the relativity of our own experience, reminding us that time is not fixed but woven by perception. Beyond science, the electric stage carries poetic meaning. To know that every dream landscape is the work of neurons is not to diminish it, but to deepen our awe. The mountains of dreams, the rivers, the faces, the voices, all are built from the same sparks that guide our waking lives. To become lucid is to bow to this creativity, to realize that the mind is both the architect and the wanderer. We are not separate from our dreams, they are part of us, expressions of the same electric stage that animates our days. And so, as we drift deeper into the night, the neurons continue their performance. The play is infinite, each scene unfolding with new textures, new colours. Lucidity allows us to pause and recognise the stage, but even without lucidity, the orchestra plays on. Whether we notice or not, the neurons hum their ancient song, creating worlds within us every night. Perhaps the gift of lucidity is not in controlling these worlds, but in witnessing them with wonder, in realizing that the stage is alive and we are part of its endless performance. To awaken within a dream is to sit in the front row of the most intimate theatre of all, the theatre of the self. The play of neurons continues, and now we drift into the closing act, where the electric stage softens towards silence. We've watched the actors spark and fade, seen the orchestra weave illusions of touch, sound and light, and walked among them with the fragile awareness of lucidity. Now let us bring the story toward its gentle conclusion, reflecting on what it means for consciousness to rise within this hidden theatre. Lucid dreaming shows us that awareness is not confined to waking life. The same neurons that govern reason and decision in daylight can awaken briefly in night's theatre, allowing us to notice the play from within. This suggests that consciousness itself is flexible, capable of appearing in spaces where we might not expect it. For centuries, philosophers wondered whether awareness was a light that turned on only when awake. Lucid dreams answer softly. Awareness can flicker even in the deepest night, blending with imagination, revealing that the mind is never entirely asleep. Scientists studying this phenomenon speak of integration. In ordinary dreams, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reflection, is dim, but in lucid dreams, it glows faintly, rejoining the network. This integration creates the peculiar mix, vivid imagination guided gently by self-recognition. The electric stage becomes a meeting place of opposites, chaos and order, spontaneity and structure, instinct and intention. To dwell in that space is to feel the strange wholeness of the mind, as if waking and dreaming selves meet and recognize one another. The meaning of this meeting extends beyond science. To awaken in a dream is to glimpse how much of our experience waking or sleeping is constructed. The mountains of dreams are not real, yet they feel real. In waking life too, our perceptions are shaped by neurons filtering light, sound, and sensation. Lucidity highlights this fact, reminding us that reality itself is partly a construction. We see the world through the lens of the electric stage, always coloured by memory, expectation, and interpretation. Dreams make this visible by exaggerating it, but the truth applies everywhere. The brain is both stage and storyteller, weaving worlds for us to inhabit. For many dreamers, the deepest gift of lucidity is not control, but perspective. To know that one is dreaming is to realize that experience, however convincing, can be questioned. This realization brings a gentle humility. It suggests that even waking life should be approached with curiosity, with the awareness that our perceptions may shift, our certainties may dissolve. To carry this humility into daylight is to live more mindfully, aware that the world around us is both real and filtered, both stable and changing. Lucid dreaming also teaches patience. The stage cannot always be entered at will. Some nights remain stubbornly opaque, some dreams fade before lucidity dawns. This unpredictability reminds us that the mind has its own rhythm. We cannot force the orchestra to play a particular song, we can only listen, practice, and wait. In this way, lucid dreaming becomes not only a practice of awareness but of surrender. We learn to accept the nights without lucidity, knowing they too are part of the performance. And when lucidity comes, it feels like a gift, a rare moment when the curtain lifts and we glimpse the machinery of the mind. There is also beauty in the impermanence of lucid dreams. Like morning dew, they vanish quickly, leaving behind only a shimmer of memory. Yet in that shimmer lies meaning. The dreamer recalls flying or facing fear, or simply realizing, I am dreaming. These memories often linger longer than ordinary dreams, etched into waking consciousness with unusual clarity. They remind us days or even years later of the vastness of the mind's stage. They remind us that within our own brains, landscapes beyond imagination wait silently each night. The electric soar also connects us to one another. While each dream is private, the phenomenon of lucidity is shared. Across cultures and centuries, people have described the same awakening within sleep, the same astonishment at realizing they were dreaming. Ancient texts from Tibet to Greece echo this recognition. Modern laboratories using eye signals and EEG confirm it. The continuity across time and culture speaks to something universal. The brain's ability to reflect on itself, to step into its own theatre and whisper, I know this is my play. In that universality lies a quiet kinship. Every dreamer who has ever become lucid shares in the same fragile wonder. So we close this act with gratitude. The neurons will continue their performance whether or not we notice. The stage will light again tonight, as it has every night of our lives. Sometimes we will wander blindly through its plays. Sometimes we will awaken briefly and marvel. Both states are natural, both precious. Lucid dreaming is not a destination but a reminder that the mind is vast, creative, and endlessly mysterious. To glimpse this, even for a moment, is to touch a secret woven into our very being. As the final curtain falls, imagine yourself lying in stillness. The stage dims, the orchestra quiets, the body wakes. Morning light slips through the window, and yet within you, the echoes of the night remain. Neurons hum softly, carrying memories, shaping thoughts, rehearsing for the next performance. You are carrying the awareness that in every night, beneath every silence, the electric stage awaits. Its doors are always open, and sometimes, if you are gentle, you may step inside once more and remember that you are both dreamer and dream. Time is a river we all must cross, yet in dreams the river bends and flows without the anchor of clocks. In waking life, seconds are counted, minutes march steadily forward, and hours divide the day with mechanical certainty. But once we drift into sleep, the mind slips loose from this ticking rhythm. A dream can stretch into what feels like a lifetime, or collapse into a flash of moments. In the world behind closed eyes, time is not measured by gears or numbers, but by the quiet pulses of the brain itself. To enter this world lucidly is to realize that eternity and instants coexist in ways we cannot touch when awake. The sleeping mind moves through cycles, each one about 90 minutes long, though we rarely notice. The body rests, the heart slows, and the brain dips into deep, slow-wave sleep before rising again into the rapid eye movements of dreaming. Within these cycles, the brain creates its own sense of duration. A few minutes of REM may contain whole journeys, climbing mountains, holding conversations, even growing older within the dream's illusion. Scientists have measured dream time by asking lucid dreamers to count seconds inside their dreams, signaling with their eyes when they reach a number. The results are both strange and revealing. Often dream time matches waking time closely, but just as often it drifts and warps, slipping out of alignment like a clock whose hands no longer turn evenly. What creates this elasticity of time? The answer lies in the way neurons stitch together experience. In waking life, our sense of time comes partly from external cues: the sun rising, the shadow shifting, the ticking of a clock on the wall. But in dreams, these anchors vanish. The brain must build time from within, using its rhythms of memory, emotion, and narrative. When a dream is rich with events, the mind stretches it, painting more duration into the canvas. When a dream is sparse, it contracts, leaving us with only fragments. This is why a dream that feels like hours may occur in just minutes of REM. Time is not absolute in sleep, it is embroidered by the perception. There is a curious poetry to this. To dream is to step into a timeless theatre, where stories unfold not according to seconds but according to meaning. We may live through an entire day in a dream, watching the sun rise and fall, yet awaken to find only minutes have passed. We may experience a brief encounter, a single conversation, and feel it lasted an eternity. The mind in dreams is both painter and clockmaker, stretching or folding according to the weight of experience. In lucidity, when awareness dawns, we notice this elasticity more keenly. To count within a dream is to realize how slippery counting can be, how seconds dissolve like grains of sand slipping between fingers. The body, however, remains bound to its rhythms. Even as the dream expands or contracts, the brain cycles predictably through REM and non-REM, through waves of delta and bursts of beta. The paradox is striking. The body keeps time steadily, while the mind bends it freely. Scientists compare this to music. The metronome clicks evenly, but the melody dances above it, stretching and compressing the rhythm. Dreams are melodies of time, always moving to the body's metronome, yet always wandering beyond its strict beat. Awareness in dreams allows us to hear both at once the steady ticking and the drifting song. Cultural traditions have long intuited this strange relationship between dreams and eternity. Ancient texts describe nights in which dreamers lived whole lifetimes, only to awaken in youth. Folk tales tell of wanderers who entered dream palaces and returned to find centuries had passed outside. Though mythical, these stories echo the real elasticity of dream time. Neuroscience now explains the mechanism, but the feeling remains mysterious. In dreams, we sense the infinite in the span of a breath. Lucidity only heightens this wonder, allowing us to notice how easily our minds slip into eternity when freed from clocks. Why does this matter? Because it reminds us that time itself is partly a construct. The brain measures duration by change, by memory, by rhythm. When little changes, time feels slow. When much happens, time feels fast. In dreams, the rules of change are unbound, so time loses its anchor. This suggests that even in waking life, our experience of time is less about seconds and more about meaning. A joyful day may vanish quickly. A painful hour may stretch unbearably long. Dreams make this truth visible, showing us that our perception of time has always been fluid, always shaped by our inner rhythms. There is beauty in surrendering to this fluidity. To dream without clocks is to let go of the anxious counting that often weighs upon our waking days. In sleep, the mind reminds us that life is not only about numbers and measurements, but about the richness of each moment. A dream filled with wonder feels long because it is full. A dream that passes quickly is not lesser, it is simply light, like a cloud floating across the sky. Awareness allows us to appreciate both, to see that duration is not the true measure of experience. Meaning is. Imagine drifting now through such a dream. You walk along a shoreline, the waves lapping at your feet. The sun moves across the sky, yet you do not know if hours pass or only moments. The scene feels endless and yet fragile, as though it could dissolve at any time. In lucidity, you realize that your perception is the only clock here. You close your eyes, count slowly, open them again, and the waves continue. Perhaps you counted 10 seconds, perhaps only one passed. In this place, it hardly matters. Time has become the rhythm of your awareness, the flow of your attention. The river bends, and you drift with it, unhurried. And so the mind teaches us through dreams what waking life often hides, that time is not a cage but a canvas. We paint it with memory, with emotion, with story. In dreams, the canvas is looser, the paint freer, so we see more clearly how it has always been. To awaken within this is not to master time, but to understand it, to feel its softness, its pliancy, its mystery. And when morning comes, when the clocks resume their steady march, perhaps we carry that softness with us, remembering that even in waking life, eternity is never far away. It flickers quietly within us, waiting each night when we drift into the river of sleep. The river of dream time carries us deeper, into eddies where memory and perception swirl together. In waking life, we rely on the steady pace of external clocks, the sun rising and setting, the sweep of hands across a dial, the digital flicker of numbers that march forward without hesitation. But within dreams, the scaffolding of external cues is gone. The brain must weave its own fabric of time, and it does so with threads of story, rhythm, and emotion. To step lucidly into this fabric is to feel how delicate and flexible the weave truly is. Neuroscientists study this weaving by asking lucid dreamers to perform tasks while dreaming. Some count to 10, others clap their hands, Others walk across imagined landscapes while signaling with their eyes. The results reveal that dream time often parallels waking time, yet can drift subtly, as if the mind is playing with elasticity. In some cases, the dreamer's 10 seconds matched waking 10 seconds exactly. In others, they stretched or shortened, like echoes in a cavern. These experiments suggest that the brain's internal clock is reliable but not rigid. It ticks with neural rhythms, oscillations of activity in networks like the thalamus and cortex, yet those rhythms can bend under the weight of imagination. The bending becomes most visible when we remember dreams upon waking. A single REM period of 15 minutes may hold an epic adventure, crossing mountains, exploring cities, meeting strangers, losing and finding companions again. How can so much unfold in so little time? The answer may lie in how memory encodes experience. In dreams, events are not recorded with the same detail as waking moments. They are stitched more loosely, often without fine transitions. This stitching compresses time, allowing the brain to tell a vast story in fewer neural notes. It is like a film sped up, where the main scenes remain but the filler fades. Lucidity lets us notice this compression even while inside it, creating the uncanny sense of living longer than the body allows. But time in dreams is not only compressed, it is also expanded. Emotional intensity can stretch moments into eternity. A moment of fear may feel endless, each second heavy with weight. A moment of awe, flying through skies, standing beneath dream stars, may linger, filling the mind as though hours had passed. In waking life we know this too. Joy makes hours vanish, grief makes minutes crawl. Dreams exaggerate the pattern, freeing it from external anchors. Lucid dreamers often speak of floating in timeless states, aware they are dreaming yet unhurried, as though time itself has become still water. In these states, the neurons continue their rhythm, but perception stretches beyond it, making eternity feel possible in the span of a breath. This flexibility of time in dreams invites reflection on the nature of time itself. Physics tells us that time is relative, that it bends with gravity and speed, that it is not an absolute march but a dimension shaped by the universe. The mind in its own way mirrors this relativity. Dreamtime shows us that perception is not bound to mechanical clocks, but to the rhythms of experience. When we are lucid, we become both traveller and witness in this relativity, observing how minutes can transform into lifetimes. Perhaps this is why dreams so often leave us with the feeling of having touched something infinite. The brain, like the cosmos, does not hold time as rigid. Both allow it to bend. The hippocampus, the region of the brain most tied to memory, plays a key role here. During dreams, it reactivates, replaying fragments of the day, reorganizing them for storage. Scientists believe this replay stitches events together, creating the flow of narrative. In lucid dreams, we may catch sight of this stitching, noticing how one scene dissolves into another without clear transition. The seams of time become visible, and with them, the realization that continuity is constructed. Just as a film editor decides which frames to keep, the brain decides which moments to weave. Awareness within dreams is like sitting in the editing room, watching the reel spin. Time, we realize, is a creation, not a given. Cultures across history have woven myths around this perception of timelessness. In Japanese folklore, Urashima Taro enters an undersea palace and spends what feels like days, only to return and find centuries gone. In Celtic stories, Mortals who visit fairy realms awaken to discover lifetimes have passed. These tales, though fantastical, capture the real strangeness of dream time, its ability to fracture and stretch, to make the familiar rules of duration dissolve. Lucidity offers us the same lesson in quieter form. We awaken within the dream and feel the strange truth. Time is not a river outside us, but a rhythm within us. Some dreamers have used this realization deliberately. By becoming lucid, they slow themselves, counting, breathing, anchoring to the moment. Others practice stretching the dream, seeking to remain in lucidity longer. Techniques vary: spinning in circles, touching objects in the dream, repeating affirmations. Each is an attempt to steady perception, to anchor awareness within the shifting flow. While the body's REM may still be brief, the experience feels prolonged, as though eternity can be savoured with gentle attention. This is less control than partnership, the mind and time moving together like dancers, aware of one another. What does it mean to live without clocks, even briefly? It may mean freedom, the release from the anxious ticking that governs waking life. In dreams, there is no schedule, no appointments, no deadlines. There is only the unfolding of experience. Lucidity makes this unfolding clearer, reminding us that clocks are useful but not ultimate. When we awaken, the lessons linger. We remember that time felt endless, that moments can be full without being long. We carry that memory into the day, perhaps softening our grip on seconds, remembering instead to dwell in the fullness of each breath. Now imagine drifting in such a dream once more. You are walking a path through a forest. The leaves above shimmer in golden light, and you feel as though you have walked here for hours. Yet when you awaken, only a few minutes have passed. Does this make the walk less real, or does it remind you that reality is measured not in minutes but in presence? In the forest of dreams you have lived deeply, and that depth is its own measure of time. To become lucid, there is to realize that eternity is not something far away. It is the texture of awareness itself, waiting quietly whenever the clocks fall silent. The dream river carries us toward its end, and the reflections upon its surface grow softer. We have watched how neurons weave minutes into hours, how memories bend the fabric of duration, how emotions stretch moments into eternity. Now, as we close this story, let us drift into the quiet meaning of dream time, what it teaches us not only about sleep, but about life itself. Lucid dreams reveal a truth that is easy to forget. Our sense of time is always shaped by perception. In waking life, we cling to clocks, counting minutes as if they were beads on a string. Yet even there, time is never constant. A joyful day disappears in a blink. A painful hour lingers endlessly. In dreams where clocks do not bind us, this relativity becomes impossible to ignore. To awaken within such a state is to see clearly that time is not a rigid cage, but a pliant fabric, stitched by memory and coloured by awareness. This realization, once glimpsed, cannot be fully forgotten. It lingers like a soft echo, reminding us that life itself can be lived with more presence, less obsession with counting. Science too finds wonder in this pliancy. Researchers studying lucid dreamers have begun to explore whether the brain can be trained to expand perception of time, using dreams as laboratories. Some evidence suggests that practicing tasks in dreams does not merely mirror waking time, but may allow the mind to rehearse more efficiently, compressing learning into brief spans. If this is true, dreams may hold the key to unlocking hidden capacities of memory and creativity, reshaping how we think about time and progress. The electric rhythms of neurons, freed from external constraints, may show us how to move beyond the ticking metronome of daily life. But beyond science, dream time invites us into philosophy. What is eternity, if not the absence of clocks? When we lose track of time in music, in love, in art, we taste eternity while awake. Dreams amplify this, offering eternity as a nightly gift. Some lucid dreamers describe moments of pure stillness, floating in light, surrounded by silence, where they feel both outside of time and deeply within it. These moments echo mystical traditions across cultures. Buddhist monks who describe timeless awareness, poets who write of eternity in an instant, philosophers who wonder if time itself is an illusion. Dreams place us gently among these questions, not as answers but as experiences. The practical side of dream time is equally profound. Those who suffer recurring nightmares often feel trapped in endless fear, each moment stretched unbearably. Lucidity can transform this. By recognizing the dream, the dreamer can step out of the trap, shorten the nightmare, or dissolve it altogether. In this way, awareness restores control over time itself. What felt eternal in terror becomes fleeting, and what felt fleeting in wonder can be savoured. The gift of lucidity is not only to notice that one is dreaming, but to reshape the weight of time within it. And what of death, the final frontier of time? Some traditions see lucid dreaming as preparation for this passage. Tibetan dream yoga teaches that to recognize the dream prepares one for the recognition of the bardo, the in-between state after death. To notice illusions as illusions is to approach the great transition with clarity. While science cannot confirm such beliefs, the metaphor is striking. Lucid dreaming teaches us that time is not absolute, that awareness can persist even when the familiar world dissolves. In this sense, every lucid dream is a rehearsal, not of death itself, but of letting go, of stepping into timelessness without fear. Imagine now the last moments of a dream. The scenery grows thin, the colours fade, and awareness begins to shift toward waking. In those instants, lucidity allows us to linger and know the dream is ending, yet we savour its final seconds. We breathe in the texture of eternity one more time, before the clock resumes its steady march. This is not loss but transition, like the river flowing into the sea. The dream does not vanish, it simply joins the greater current of memory, carried with us into the day. In the quiet of morning, when the alarm rings and numbers return, we might pause to remember the lesson of the night. Time is not only measured in minutes or hours, it is measured in presence, in depth, in the richness of experience. A single lucid moment in a dream can feel like a lifetime, just as a single mindful breath in waking life can contain eternity. To recognize this is to loosen the grip of clocks, to step more gently through our days, aware that the true rhythm is within us. So we close this story not with a clock striking, but with silence. The mind, vast and mysterious, holds eternity in its folds, offering it to us each night when we drift into sleep. Whether we are lucid or not, whether we notice or not, the river of dream time flows endlessly, carrying us through lifetimes woven in minutes, minutes stretched into lifetimes. To awaken within it is to see that eternity has always been near, waiting patiently behind closed eyes. And as we drift toward the next dream, we carry that truth quietly, like a lantern glowing in the endless night. Between waking and sleeping lies a threshold so delicate it feels like breath upon glass. It is not a door we see nor one we can touch, yet we pass through it every night, often without notice. At times the transition is swift, as though the body tumbles into darkness. At other times it is gentle, a drifting descent into warmth. This fragile door is where reality softens, where sounds blur into whispers, where the body slackens into stillness, and the mind begins to paint its own landscapes. To pause at this threshold is to glimpse the tender machinery of sleep, the moment when consciousness begins to unravel and reform itself. Scientists call this passage the hypnagogic state, the moment between wakefulness and sleep. It is a twilight of the mind, filled with strange flickers of imagery, fragments of thought, and sensations that slip beyond control. Many have experienced it. The sudden jerk of a limb as though falling, the sound of a voice that vanishes upon waking, the brief vision of colours or faces that dissolve into darkness. These are not full dreams, nor are they waking perceptions. They are shadows at the doorway, signals of the brain's descent. In this fragile in-between, awareness lingers just enough to notice, before surrendering to the tide of sleep. The fragile door is not one way. On the other side lies its twin, hypnopompia, the threshold of awakening. Here too visions and voices may appear, fragments of dreams clinging to the edges of consciousness. Sometimes we awaken gently, as if climbing slowly into daylight. Other times abruptly, the dream shattering like glass. The symmetry is striking. On one side of the door we fall, on the other we rise. Together these thresholds form the bookends of sleep, the passages through which every dream must be entered and exited. To study them is to study the most subtle workings of consciousness, the quiet transitions that frame our nights. Lucid dreaming often touches this door. For some, lucidity arrives not in the middle of a dream but at its threshold. They linger in the hypnagogic state, aware as the mind begins to create. Strange patterns dance before closed eyes, geometric shapes, colours blooming, sounds murmuring from nowhere. If awareness holds steady, these fragments can coalesce into a dream, and the dreamer steps through the fragile door without losing lucidity. It is as though one walks gently into a new room while keeping the lamp of awareness lit. Scientists call this a wake-induced lucid dream, a passage from wakefulness directly into the dream world. It is delicate work, requiring calm, for too much excitement breaks the balance, sending the dreamer back into full wakefulness. What happens in the brain at this threshold? The transition is marked by shifts in neural rhythms. In waking life, the brain hums with beta waves, fast and sharp. As we relax, these give way to alpha waves, slower and smoother, often associated with calm states of rest. Deeper still, as sleep encroaches, theta waves rise, rhythmic and dreamlike. The fragile door is the shifting point where these waves mingle, where wakefulness and sleep overlap. In hypnagogia, neurons in the visual cortex fire spontaneously, creating brief hallucinations. In hypnopompia, the remnants of dream activity leak into waking perception. The mind, caught between two states, reveals both at once, and we witness the mystery of how consciousness flickers between worlds. This threshold has long fascinated artists and thinkers. The poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge claimed to have written verses inspired by hypnagogic visions, while Salvador Dali famously napped with a key in his hand, dropping it as he drifted into hypnagogia, so that the sound would wake him. In that instant between sleeping and waking, he caught glimpses of images that fueled his surrealist art. Thomas Edison is said to have used a similar trick, holding ball bearings that would fall as he drifted, waking him to capture ideas. The fragile door has thus served not only as a passage to dreams, but as a fountain of creativity, a place where the boundaries of reality dissolve and imagination emerges raw. Lucidity at the threshold deepens this fountain. Those who practice meditation or mindfulness often find it easier to linger in hypnagogia without losing awareness. They describe floating sensations, vibrations in the body, or the feeling of separating from physical form. While some interpret this as mystical, neuroscience frames it as the brain's shifting sensory integration, the body map dissolving as the mind detaches from physical input. Regardless of explanation, the experience is profound. To hover at this door, neither awake nor asleep, is to glimpse how fluid consciousness can be. It is a reminder that the line we take for granted, the line between real and imagined, is thinner than we believe. But the fragile door is not only a place of wonder, it can also be unsettling. Sleep paralysis, for instance, often occurs here. The dreamer awakens in hypnopompia, conscious but unable to move, their body still held in REM atonia, the paralysis that protects us during dreams. In this state, hallucinations often arise, figures in the room, a weight on the chest, whispers in the dark. For centuries, cultures described these experiences as demons or spirits, the incubus, the night hag. Science now explains them as the overlap of dreaming imagery with waking awareness, yet the fear remains vivid. To pass through the fragile door unsteadily is to feel the uncanny, trapped between two worlds, vulnerable at the boundary. Yet even here, lucidity can be a balm. Those who recognize sleep paralysis for what it is, a moment at the threshold, can ease their fear. Some use it as a stepping stone into lucid dreaming, allowing the hallucinations to shift into a dream once the body relaxes. Others breathe slowly, waiting for control to return, using awareness to soften the panic. The fragile door, once understood, becomes less a prison and more a passage. Its terrors, like its wonders, arise from the fact that it is neither fully real nor fully unreal, but a mingling of both. To reflect on this door is to realize how much of life is lived at thresholds. We pass daily between light and dark, noise and silence, waking and sleeping. Most of the time, these transitions blur. But when we linger in them, when lucidity or curiosity holds us still, we glimpse the delicate seams of existence. The fragile door reminds us that consciousness is not fixed, but fluid, shifting like water across states. To notice this is to feel less certain but also more open, to see that awareness is vast and its boundaries are softer than we imagine. And so each night we approach the fragile door again. Sometimes we slip through without noticing, sometimes we pause and marvel at its strangeness. Sometimes we fear it, sometimes we welcome it. Whatever our path, the door waits patiently as it always has, the quiet threshold between two worlds. To recognize it even once is to bow to the mystery of transition itself, the place where waking ends, dreaming begins, and eternity hovers in between. The fragile door is not merely a boundary, it is a landscape in itself, a liminal realm filled with shadows of thought and echoes of dream. To linger here is to discover that the threshold is as alive as the states it connects. Sleep researchers describe this twilight region as rich with phenomena, hypnagogic imagery before sleep, hypnopompic hallucinations upon waking, vibrations, floating sensations, sudden jolts of muscle known as hypnic jerks. These fleeting experiences remind us that the mind does not flip like a switch, but fades like light at dusk, blending into new colours as it changes. Awareness of this blending reveals how subtle and mysterious consciousness truly is. The hypnagogic state is often compared to a canvas painted by fragments of memory. Faces appear without context, voices murmur half-finished sentences, landscapes flicker and dissolve before we can explore them. These images are brief but vivid, born from neurons firing in irregular patterns as the visual cortex quiets its connection to the outside world. It is as if the brain, momentarily freed from constant input, begins to test its own imagination in fragments. Some dreamers describe seeing impossible colours, geometries that twist beyond comprehension, or fleeting glimpses of entire worlds that vanish in seconds. Lucidity at this door allows us to watch these fragments unfold, to recognise them not as reality but as the seeds of dreams. Passing through the door at dawn in hypnopompia is equally fascinating. Here, remnants of dreams cling like mist, overlapping with waking perception. A person may hear footsteps or voices that vanish when the eyes open, or see figures dissolve as daylight grows. These experiences, though fleeting, remind us that waking and dreaming are not separate islands, but shores of the same sea. Lucidity here allows us to recognize the blending, to say softly, "This is my mind, shifting its scenery as it returns to light." To linger in that recognition is to feel awe at the fluidity of the self. Sleep paralysis often meets us at this door, a reminder of the body's protective stillness. During REM sleep, the body is paralyzed so that dreams cannot be acted out. When awareness returns before the paralysis fades, the dreamer finds themselves awake in mind but not in body. Terrifying, the chest heavy, breath shallow, eyes straining to see. Hallucinations often join, dark shapes, whispering presences, figures at the bedside. For centuries these were seen as spirits, witches, or and the fear they bring is deeply primal. Yet science shows they are the remnants of dreaming imagery projected onto waking awareness. Lucidity in this state is like holding a lantern in the dark. The fear remains, but understanding softens it. Some dreamers even use sleep paralysis as a portal, slipping back into dreams with awareness intact, transforming terror into opportunity. The fragile door also reveals how creativity flourishes at thresholds. Artists and inventors throughout history have tapped into these states. The painter Salvador Dalí, drifting at the edge of sleep, claimed to catch images that fueled his surreal visions. The inventor Thomas Edison dozed with metal balls in hand, waking as they fell, catching ideas before full sleep erased them. These practices show that hypnagogia is not emptiness, but fertile ground, where the mind, unburdened by logic, allows associations to bloom freely. Awareness at this door lets us harvest these blossoms, carrying them into waking life as inspiration. Beyond art, the door has spiritual significance. In many traditions, the threshold between waking and sleeping is considered sacred, a place where visions arise. Shamans and mystics spoke of entering trance states that resemble hypnagogia, drifting between worlds to bring back wisdom. Tibetan dream yoga encourages practitioners to notice these thresholds, to remain aware as they pass into sleep, for awareness here is believed to train the mind for clarity in both life and death. Science may describe waves and neurons, but the experience itself remains luminous, offering a taste of the mystery that lies between states of being. The fragile door also teaches us about trust. Each night we surrender ourselves to sleep, stepping into vulnerability without fear. The body stills, the mind dissolves, yet we trust that morning will return. To notice this surrender is to realize how often we rely on thresholds without acknowledging them. Lucidity adds a layer of choice. We can step through the door gently, noticing how consciousness flickers, how thoughts stretch into visions. This noticing deepens the surrender, turning it from unconscious habit into conscious acceptance. To be lucid here is not to resist the fall into sleep, but to embrace it knowingly, to walk through the door with calm curiosity. In waking life too, thresholds surround us. Between night and day, silence and sound, breath in and breath out, there are countless fragile doors we rarely pause to see. The hypnagogic and hypnopompic states are simply the most vivid examples, inviting us to notice the broader truth that existence is not made of fixed states, but of transitions. To witness these transitions with awareness is to live more gently, less bound by rigid categories of awake and asleep, real and imagined. The fragile door becomes not just a passage of sleep, but a metaphor for all of life's liminal spaces. Imagine standing now at such a threshold. You are lying in bed, the room dim, the body heavy. Colours shimmer behind your eyes, patterns forming and dissolving. A voice murmurs, though no one speaks. You feel yourself sinking, yet you are aware. You breathe, calm and unhurried, and the fragments deepen, shaping into a dream. You step through the door, carrying your awareness with you, and find yourself in a landscape woven of thought and memory. This is the gift of the fragile door. It shows you how awareness can walk between worlds, how consciousness can flow like water across the boundaries we thought were solid. And as we rest within this thought, the night continues its quiet work. The fragile door remains, opening and closing, carrying us between waking and sleeping. Each passage is a reminder that consciousness is not a fixed flame, but a shifting glow, one that bends and changes with the rhythms of life. To honour this door is to honour the mystery of transition itself, the delicate seam where all beginnings and endings meet. The fragile door, as we near the close of its story, reveals itself not only as a passage, but as a teacher. Each night we cross it without thought, yet when we pause to notice, it speaks softly of surrender, of trust, of the delicate weave between states of being. It shows us that consciousness is not rigid but flowing, not bound by walls but shifting like mist across a field. To linger here aware is to glimpse how life itself is stitched from thresholds, each one offering a chance to awaken more deeply. Lucid dreamers often use this door deliberately. They allow themselves to hover in hypnagogia, watching the flickers of imagery until they coalesce into a dream. This practice, called wake-induced lucid dreaming, requires patience and calm. The body grows heavy, breathing slows, and the mind teeters between letting go and holding on. If awareness balance is just right, the dream begins like a painting filling itself in. A meadow unfolds, a face appears, a voice speaks. The dreamer steps through, aware from the very beginning that the world is dreamt. This crossing feels magical because it strips away the amnesia that usually blinds us at the start of dreams. The fragile door, in this sense, is a portal into awareness, but the door can also serve as a place of reflection. Many who meditate describe using the threshold before sleep as a time of insight. The mind is relaxed, less cluttered, yet not fully gone. Thoughts drift more freely, often connecting in ways they do not during the busyness of day. To rest here with awareness is to feel ideas blossom, solutions arrive, intuitions stir. It is no coincidence that so many artists, inventors and thinkers have sought inspiration at this threshold. It is fertile because it dissolves the rigid patterns of thought, allowing novelty to emerge. Awareness does not force these ideas, it simply notices them, gently carrying them into waking life like treasures found in the twilight. The hypnopompic side of the door at dawn brings its own lessons. Waking slowly, carrying fragments of dream into daylight, reminds us that reality is not always clear-cut. Sometimes the world we awaken to is still tinged with unreality, colours brighter, sounds muffled, emotions lingering like perfume. In these moments, the line between dream and waking blurs, and we realize that waking life itself is partly dreamlike. Our perceptions are filtered, our interpretations shaped by memory and mood. The fragile door teaches us that clarity is always gradual, that reality is never as absolute as we imagine. Sleep paralysis, though frightening, is another teacher of this threshold. To find oneself awake in mind but still trapped in the stillness of REM is unsettling, yet it reveals the machinery of the door with dark clarity. We learn that awareness and body are not always synchronized, that consciousness can emerge before movement returns. Those who learn to greet this state with calm often transform it into lucidity, turning fear into passage. The door teaches them that even paralysis is not an end but a bridge, one that can carry them deeper into dreams if met with gentleness. It reminds us that fear often arises from not understanding, and that awareness itself is the light that softens shadows. Across cultures, the fragile door has been honoured in myth. The Greeks spoke of Hypnos, the god of sleep, and his brother Thanatos, the god of death, both dwelling at thresholds between worlds. In Norse stories, dreams were thought to travel across realms, slipping through hidden doors of the night. Indigenous traditions often treated the transitions of sleep as sacred, times when spirits moved freely. Though framed differently, each of these traditions reflects the truth. The thresholds matter. They are not emptiness, but places of passage holding meaning in their fragility. To notice them is to honour the mystery of how we move between states. Science, too, is beginning to see value in this fragility. Researchers studying consciousness suggest that the thresholds of sleep may reveal how awareness arises at all. The shifts in brainwaves, the gradual synchronization and desynchronization of neural networks show us how a mind can drift from one mode to another. By studying hypnagogia and hypnopompia, we glimpse how awareness flickers into existence, how it fades, and how it returns. These thresholds are natural laboratories of consciousness, showing us the mechanics of something we too often take for granted: the simple act of being aware. As we close, imagine yourself once more at the fragile door. You lie in quiet darkness, the body sinking, the mind drifting. Colours swirl, voices echo faintly, and you know you are standing between worlds. You do not rush through. You breathe slowly, noticing the shimmer of images, the softness of the transition. Perhaps you choose to step into the dream aware, carrying lucidity with you. Perhaps you simply surrender, letting the tide take you. Either way, the passage itself is luminous. You realize that this door is not fragile because it is weak, but because it is subtle, delicate, fleeting. To notice it is a rare gift, one that deepens the mystery of both waking and dreaming, and so the fragile door closes gently behind us. We have walked its threshold, seen its terrors and its wonders, and felt its quiet teachings. Each night it waits for us, unmarked, unguarded, asking only that we pass through with trust. Some nights we stumble blindly, others we pause in awe, but whether we notice or not, the door carries us faithfully, always opening, always closing, guiding us between the known and the unknown. To honour it is to honour the beauty of transition, the truth that consciousness is always moving, always flowing, always becoming. In this way, the fragile door is not only the passage of sleep, but the very rhythm of existence itself. There is a dreamer who sleeps each night beneath the quiet dome of stars, and within that sleeping body another light awakens. It is the light of knowing, fragile but luminous, like a lantern rising into the sky of the mind. Most dreams carry us without question, pulling us through shifting streets and changing faces. But sometimes the dreamer pauses, looks upward, and whispers, "I know this is a dream." In that instant, consciousness floats free, drifting across the night like a star untethered, seeing both the dream and itself within it. The mystery of consciousness has always been compared to the sky. Vast, endless, and filled with invisible movements, it is both intimate and unreachable. In waking life, we notice only fragments of its depth, moments of awareness, sparks of insight. But in lucid dreams, the sky opens wider. The dreamer becomes both witness and participant, the mind reflecting upon itself as clearly as the moon reflected in still water. This ability to know, to recognize awareness inside its own creation, is what makes lucidity so extraordinary. It is not simply a dream, and not simply waking, but a blending of both, a twilight where consciousness floats unbound. Neuroscience approaches this mystery with instruments, measuring the rhythms of the brain as if mapping stars. Electrodes reveal bursts of gamma activity, regions of the prefrontal cortex lighting up amid the storm of RM. These signatures suggest that lucid dreaming is a hybrid state, where circuits of self-reflection stir awake within the dreaming mind. Yet the experience itself cannot be reduced to numbers. To be the dreamer who knows is to feel the vastness of self-awareness, to touch directly the mystery that science describes only from a distance. It is like studying constellations on paper versus lying beneath the night sky, eyes open to infinity. Philosophers too have long wondered about this light of awareness. What is it that allows the mind to notice itself? Descartes doubted all things, but concluded that awareness was undeniable. I think, therefore I am. Lucid dreams echo this truth in their own quiet way. The dreamer realizes that even when the world around them is illusion, the act of noticing is real. Consciousness exists even when its objects dissolve. In this sense, lucid dreaming is not just entertainment or curiosity. It is a window into the very nature of being. To know within a dream is to encounter consciousness itself, bare and luminous, floating like a star in the dark. The experience often feels expansive, as if the dreamer has stepped beyond boundaries. Many describe flying, soaring above landscapes, reaching for skies. Others feel themselves dissolve into light, losing form but gaining awareness of vastness. These metaphors arise naturally because lucidity carries the feeling of expansion. consciousness unmoored from its usual anchors, moving freely across the canvas of the dream. The night sky becomes a fitting image, boundless, filled with light, silent yet alive. The dreamer who knows is like a star noticing its own glow. But lucidity is not always flight or radiance. Sometimes it is quiet, a simple awareness of walking, touching, breathing within the dream. The dreamer may gaze at their own hands, noticing how lines shift and blur. They may touch the ground, feeling its texture even as they know it is imagined. These simple acts carry profound weight because they show how awareness can inhabit even the smallest details. Consciousness, like light, is not diminished by scale. Whether gazing at galaxies or at the palm of one's hand, the act of knowing remains luminous. In this way, lucid dreams remind us that awareness is not bound to grandeur. It shines in every moment it inhabits. The dreamer who knows also meets questions of identity. If every figure in a dream is created by the mind, who are they? Are they fragments of memory, shadows of emotion, or aspects of the self? Lucid dreamers often experiment asking dream characters who they are, only to receive surprising answers. Some respond with nonsense, some with wisdom, some with silence. The mystery deepens. Are these voices merely random neural firings, or do they reflect parts of the self unrecognized in waking life? To stand lucidly in this encounter is to wonder whether the mind is singular or plural, whether the self is a chorus as well as a soloist. The night sky of lucidity is also a mirror of compassion. Those who face nightmares lucidly often find that confronting fear with kindness dissolves it. A monster becomes a friend, a shadow becomes a guide. This transformation reflects a deeper truth. Consciousness, when aware of itself, can choose its stance. It can meet its creations with fear or with love. The dreamer who knows learns that awareness itself is power, not to dominate but to soften. This lesson, carried into waking life, teaches us that the shadows we fear may also dissolve when met with understanding. The dream becomes a rehearsal for compassion, a quiet practice of turning toward rather than away. And yet lucidity is fragile. Just as a star may be hidden by clouds, awareness in dreams can vanish quickly. A surge of excitement may awaken the dreamer, or distraction may pull them back into ordinary dreaming. This fragility is part of its beauty. The dreamer who knows must tread gently, savouring each moment as it comes, knowing it may dissolve at any time. The awareness is precious precisely because it cannot be forced. It arrives like a gift, unexpected and luminous, reminding us of the delicacy of consciousness itself. Imagine yourself now as the dreamer who knows. You drift in a vast sky, stars around you, your body light as air. You look down and see landscapes shifting below, mountains turning to oceans, cities to forests. You realize none of it is solid, yet you marvel at its beauty. You raise your hand and the stars respond, shimmering brighter. You are both within the dream and beyond it, both creator and witness. In that stillness you feel the truth. Awareness itself is enough. To know is to shine is to float free, like consciousness drifting endlessly across the night. The dreamer who knows continues their journey, drifting deeper into the infinite sky of awareness. The first awakening, recognizing the dream, is like lighting a lantern, but the second awakening is subtler, realizing that the lantern is not separate from the sky, that the glow of consciousness is woven into the very fabric of the dream itself. To remain lucid here is to move beyond the thrill of flying or reshaping landscapes and into contemplation of the mystery itself. What is this awareness, and where does it come from? Science traces the patterns of neurons pointing to bursts of activity in the prefrontal cortex, oscillations of gamma waves, communication between networks of memory, vision, and reflection. These measurements reveal the mechanics of lucidity, the stage upon which consciousness performs. Yet even as we map the activity, the experience resists reduction. Awareness cannot be contained entirely in data. It is lived, not measured. A dreamer may fly through galaxies or hold a single glowing stone in their hand, and both experiences carry the same essential truth. They know they are aware. The knowledge itself shines brighter than any scenery. Philosophical traditions across the world echo this theme. In Advaita Vedanta, awareness is described as the light of the self beyond objects and forms. In Buddhist thought, lucidity in dreams is practice for lucidity in life, noticing the impermanence of all things. Western philosophers, too, have wondered if awareness is the one undeniable certainty, the ground upon which all else rests. Lucid dreaming, though simple in appearance, offers a living glimpse of these teachings. To awaken within the dream is to see impermanence directly. Mountains change to rivers, faces shift into strangers, yet awareness remains steady like the sky. The dreamer who knows realizes that what matters most is not the content of the dream, but the presence that notices it. Dreamers often describe a peculiar joy in this state, a joy not tied to any particular event. It is the joy of simply existing, of being conscious within a world that has no weight or permanence. Some describe floating in light, others resting in silence, others merging with landscapes until the boundary of self dissolves. These experiences raise profound questions. If consciousness can feel so expansive in dreams, who are we really when awake? Are we limited bodies, or are we the awareness that perceives both waking and dreaming equally? The dreamer who knows carries this question into daylight, sensing that identity is deeper than flesh, wider than thought. Lucidity also offers a mirror to the subconscious. Within the dreamer may ask questions aloud and receive answers, sometimes coherent, sometimes cryptic. They may meet figures who speak wisdom they did not expect, or symbols that linger with haunting resonance. Are these voices merely the brain's improvisations, or are they fragments of the self surfacing from hidden depths? Jungian psychology would call them archetypes, expressions of the collective unconscious. Neuroscience would call them emergent patterns of memory and association. Yet to the dreamer, the distinction matters little. What matters is that awareness allows dialogue with the self, with memory, with the infinite chorus of the mind. Nightmares take on new meaning in lucidity. Instead of terrors to endure, they become challenges to face. A monster in the shadows is no longer invincible. The dreamer who knows can walk toward it, even embrace it, and watch it dissolve. Many describe this as deeply transformative, the fear melting not only in the dream but in waking life as well. The practice becomes a rehearsal for courage, teaching that fear itself is often a creation of the mind, and that awareness can soften it. The night sky of consciousness, once filled with dark clouds, clears when faced with lucidity. The dreamer who knows learns that shadows are only temporary veils. The expansiveness of lucid dreaming also reshapes our sense of time. Within lucidity, moments stretch, sometimes feeling like entire days. A single conversation may seem to last hours, though only minutes pass in waking life. The dreamer who knows begins to see time as elastic, a creation of the mind. This realization carried into waking softens the urgency of clocks. Life too is elastic, filled with moments that expand when we are present and contract when we are distracted. Lucid dreams are teachers of presence, showing that eternity is available not by adding hours, but by inhabiting each moment fully. In some traditions, the dreamer who knows is seen as a traveller, exploring realms beyond the physical. Tibetan dream yoga teaches that lucidity prepares the soul for the afterlife, the bardo between death and rebirth. Indigenous stories speak of dreamers walking the night sky, bringing back guidance for their communities. While science does not confirm these interpretations, it acknowledges the power of the experience itself. Dreams, lucid or not, shape how we feel, how we heal, how we live. Lucidity intensifies this power, giving us direct relationship with the landscapes of our own mind. Whether we see these landscapes as psychological, spiritual, or both, they remain profound. Imagine now that you are the dreamer who knows, floating higher into the night sky. Stars gather around you, their light both distant and near. You feel weightless, yet grounded in awareness. Below, dreams shift. Rivers, mountains, faces, but you do not cling to them. You simply watch, knowing they are yours yet not yours, real yet unreal. The sky stretches endlessly, and you realize that you are not a character in the dream, nor merely its author. You are the awareness that holds both, vast and quiet, luminous as the night itself. To rest here is to feel at home in the infinite, to know that consciousness is not bound to form but floats freely, a star within the mind's great sky. The night sky of consciousness stretches farther still, and in this final passage we arrive at the quiet heart of lucidity. The dreamer who knows has walked through shifting landscapes, faced shadows, soared across impossible horizons, and rested in the stillness of awareness itself. Now, as we close the story, we drift into the deeper meaning of what it is to know within a dream, and what this fragile knowing teaches us when we awaken. Lucid dreaming reveals a paradox. Even within illusions, truth can shine. The mountains, rivers, and stars of the dream are not real, yet the awareness that notices them is undeniable. To stand lucidly in a dream is to glimpse the essence of consciousness stripped of external anchors. It does not depend on the waking world, nor on physical senses, nor even on a consistent body. It arises wherever awareness rests, and it shines even in the most shifting of landscapes. This realization is profound, for it suggests that consciousness is not a product of stability, but a flame that burns even in chaos. The dreamer who knows discovers that the act of knowing itself is enough. In waking life, we often anchor our identity to roles, to memories, to the body we inhabit. Dreams dissolve these anchors, replacing them with shifting masks. One moment we are a child, the next a traveller, the next a stranger in a foreign city. Yet when lucidity dawns, we realise that beneath these masks, one constant remains: the awareness that perceives. This awareness is not bound to any single story. It is the sky in which all stories appear. The dreamer who knows begins to sense this truth, carrying it into daylight as a quiet understanding that the self is wider than any single role. We are not only the characters we play, but the consciousness that holds them all. The fragility of lucidity itself is another teacher. Awareness in dreams is fleeting, easily lost to distraction or excitement. This teaches patience and humility. We cannot demand lucidity at will. We can only cultivate conditions for it, practice gently, and accept it as a gift when it comes. In this way, lucid dreaming reflects life itself. Control is limited, outcomes uncertain, but awareness, when it arises, is precious. The dreamer who knows learns to savor each lucid moment just as we must savor each waking day. Impermanence deepens appreciation. Fragility becomes beauty. The dreamer who knows also discovers the power of choice. In ordinary dreams, we are swept along, reacting without reflection. In lucidity, even simple choices shine with meaning. To face fear rather than flee, to fly rather than walk, to pause and breathe rather than rush forward. These choices echo into waking life, teaching that awareness always brings freedom, however small. Even when circumstances cannot be changed, our stance towards them can. In this way, lucid dreams become rehearsals for resilience, kindness, and clarity. The night sky of the mind becomes a training ground for the daylight of the world. There is also wonder in the expansiveness of lucid dreaming. Some describe experiences of dissolving into pure light, of floating beyond the dream entirely, resting in awareness without form. These moments resemble mystical states recorded across cultures where consciousness is experienced as vast, infinite, beyond identity. Whether we interpret them spiritually or neurologically, the experience itself is transformative. To dissolve into awareness is to taste eternity, to feel that the mind is not merely a finite spark but part of a greater expanse. The dreamer who knows carries this sense of vastness with them, a reminder that even in the limits of daily life, the infinite is never far. Science, philosophy, and spirituality all converge here. Neuroscience shows us the brain's patterns, philosophy frames the questions of identity, spirituality offers metaphors of light and sky. Lucid dreaming does not resolve these perspectives but embodies them. It is the lived experience that unites data, thought, and metaphor into one. To awaken in a dream is to become the scientist observing, the philosopher questioning, and the mystic marveling all at once. The dreamer who knows stands at this intersection, a quiet witness to the wonder of consciousness itself. Now imagine the closing moments of such a dream. You float high above the world, stars shimmering all around. You know that you are dreaming, and you know that you are aware. Slowly the dream begins to fade. The stars dim, the sky softens, the body stirs, yet the awareness remains steady as a flame. As you awaken, you realize that the knowing has crossed the threshold with you. You lie in morning light, no longer dreaming, yet still carrying the quiet truth. Consciousness is vast, luminous, and ever-present, whether in dream or waking. The dreamer who knows has returned, but the sky of awareness remains. And so the story closes, not with an end, but with an opening. For each night, the dreamer may return, may awaken again within the dream, may float once more in the endless sky of the mind. Lucid dreaming is not a rare miracle but a natural possibility, available to all who close their eyes. Its gift is not in control, nor in spectacle, but in recognition. The recognition that awareness itself is the constant, the light that shines whether we sleep or wake. To be the dreamer who knows is to glimpse this light, to carry it gently into every moment, and to live with the quiet wonder that consciousness itself is the sky in which all dreams unfold.